A bombshell exploded in Virginia politics over the last few days. At the time we recorded this, Democrats were trying to rush through an effort to change the Constitution on redistricting, otherwise known as gerrymandering, through a special session right in the middle of election season. If they pull it off, it could lead to a left-leaning supermajority and fast-track major changes on abortion and transgender policy. We'll unpack all of this and what it means for the Commonwealth. Plus, we cover how the transgender issues and also the scandals surrounding Jay Jones are shaking up this election in unexpected ways. These aren't just headlines, they're battles shaping Virginia's future. From the Family Foundation, I'm your host, Candy Cushman. Well, welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Speak Up Virginia. We have got some late-breaking news and really some earth-shattering developments in the political world. And for that reason, we have brought in a special guest, Bruce Schlesman, Executive Director of Family Foundation Action. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Wish it was under better circumstances.
Yeah, when you first talked to me the other day about all that was going on, it was pretty jaw-dropping.
No, this is... politically earth-shattering is understatement for how important this is going to be. I mean, this changes everything. I mean, we always say elections have consequences, that they matter, that this is the most important election of your lifetime. And that was all true. It's just extra true today.
Well, let me get a little tease, just give a little tease for everything we're covering. So we're going to talk about how the transgender issues and the Jay Jones scandals and controversies keep shaking up this election. But right as we were sitting down to record this, as Bruce said, this earth-shattering development happened. And just to kind of let you know what's going on, it has to do with our Constitution and redistricting. Now, a lot of people might hear the word redistricting and be tempted to tune out because it sounds complicated and maybe a little boring. But this is anything but boring and possibly devastating to many of the causes we care about. Yeah. Some people are saying it could basically be a political Armageddon. So Bruce, bring us up to speed.
So essentially what they're going to do is they are trying to they're calling a special session. And when they have this special session, they're going to vote on redistricting. And they're going to vote to repeal our redistricting commission. The way it works in Virginia now is we have a commission that drew the lines. It's a bipartisan commission with Republicans and Democrats that got together and drew the lines and gave us as fair lines as possible, theoretically. So what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to repeal that by calling an election or this session now, vote it through, have the election. If they win the House of Delegates, they will vote it through again, and then they will call a special election and put this on the ballot or April and May to basically redraw all our lines, both the federal lines before the midterms, which is what the excuse they're using. It's what Hakeem Jeffries asked for. It's what they're pushing for from Washington into Richmond. But while they're at it, they're going to redraw every line. They're going to give themselves a potentially permanent majority, maybe even a supermajority in our House and Senate, guaranteeing them permanent control of Virginia for the foreseeable future.
And why should pro-life and pro-family voters care about this?
I mean, they are going to, every single issue we care about, they will kill. Every single issue we care about, they will do the worst thing they can think of possible after they succeed in this brazen power grab, because there's nothing stopping them. There's no check. There's no hope for a check in power if they seize control like this. Okay,
well, let's just talk about the timing of this. So as we were recording, there had been a special session called, and it wasn't even supposed to be about this issue, but it looks like they're trying to turn this into the redistricting issue, otherwise, as I said, known as gerrymandering. And we're not sure exactly where this whole process will be at by the time you hear this, because it was moving very fast. But we're going to talk about what you can do a little bit later if this is still going on. But you'll definitely, when you hear this, want to check exactly where this is at in the news. But I know we're going to get into more of the details, but specifically, this could be very concerning for issues like abortion and the transgender issue. Explain that part to us with these amendments that we've already raised alerts about.
So the other thing that they could do is that if they pull this off, if this gamble for absolute power pulls off and they're able to not get the backfire from the election, and with very little time to go, they win the House of Delegates. After special session, they go back into session to vote again. While they're at it, calling a special election on redistricting, they can put the other two constitutional amendments on the ballot. There is legally nothing stopping them from doing that. So what they could do is vote for all three at once.
And that means we could be battling the abortion amendment and the amendment that would, what we call the repeal and replace marriage amendment, which would not only repeal language in the Constitution acknowledging man-woman marriage, but also replace it with transgender ideology. We could be battling both of those things almost 8 months earlier than anticipated if this plan happens. And that's very serious for people that care about life and family issues.
No, absolutely.
It can't be understated.
And on top of that, the reason they're doing that or would do that and why it would be smart on their part is turnout's going to be low. That's going to benefit
if
them.
it was escalated to April, May.
It's conservative voters are in lower propensity than liberal voters. Their voters always show up. Conservative voters, Christian voters often stay home. They show up for the big elections. So if they keep people on the couch by putting an election in April, May and call for all three amendments, that is their best chance of passing all three at once.
All right, well, let's back up and make sure people understand the timeline of this and how the Constitution is playing into it. So you've heard us explain, some of you before on this podcast, that in order to change the Constitution, it has the same proposal to change the Constitution has to be voted twice by the same General Assembly in both chambers with an intervening election. And so what they're trying to do, it would require a change of the Constitution in order to do this redistricting, gerrymandering plan.
Yeah.
And so that would require them to rush through this special session right now so they take a vote.
Right before the election.
Right before the election, in the middle of an election.
Yep.
Then they're able to take a vote immediately right after the new makeup of the General Assembly, after this election that we're coming down to. Then you're saying they would call a special election to put it on the ballot. So,
correct.
Yeah.
So they would call a special election then to put it on the ballot right before the midterms primary midterms in June. They would call it, put it in April, May timeframe. And then while they're at it, could just call three amendments right there, then and there, and do that.
Well, Bruce, let's go back to a little bit of the history of this and the Constitution, because it's a little crazy how people keep wanting to change the Constitution over and over. Yeah. And there had already been an effort supported by a majority of voters to have a bipartisan fair process for redistricting that is now in our Constitution. Tell us a little bit about that history.
So 5 years ago, Virginia voters voted on a ballot referendum to change the state constitution to make the redistricting process bipartisan by commission. Mm-hmm. So commission made up of presumably both Republicans and Democrats to draw the lines, to draw fair lines. And that was voted overwhelmingly. I think it was 67, 68%.
Yeah, let's just put up this awesome graphic that Governor Youngkin recently put out that really shows a picture of how overwhelmingly this was supported. But go on.
So as you can see on the graphic, every single locality but one voted to approve this. All of Northern Virginia, every blue county, every red county, every purple county, overwhelming support.
I think maybe Arlington was the exception, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like that's Arlington that was the exception, Arlington or Alexandria.
Yeah.
But this was overwhelming. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to call an election when no one will show up in hopes that they can get their base out to the polls, and ours and every voter that cares about this issue will stay home. When just 5 years ago, an overwhelming majority of Virginians said no to this. And I mean, this power grab is so brazen. It boils my blood to think about because, just about what they're willing to do, what rules they're willing to change, what things they need to break in order to get their way.
Yeah, and it seems especially egregious to me to be trying to rush through this special session while voting is going on.
But votes have already been cast. There's been 800,000 plus votes cast, maybe close to 1 million votes cast already. And, important information these voters could be deciding on, it's too late for them. They already cast their ballot with, just a handful of days to go to this election. They're going to call a special session and essentially say, we're making a bid to take over all of Richmond forever. And voters a lot of voters didn't get a say in that.
Well, is just Richmond or even more of the state, right?
They're starting there, and then of course the federal line, so that does impact DC as well.
Well, I think Senator Sturdivant put this in a really good way. We're going to put his post up on the screen here for you because I just think he spelled this out in a really great way, what's happening here. And he gives the history that Virginians voted 2-1, creating an independent redistricting commission, as Bruce was explaining. So voters, not politicians, pick their representatives. And then he's explaining, now with early voting open, they're trying to rush this through in a special session that wasn't even originally called for to introduce this issue. So,
And I mean, to his point, I think he put it well. I think Jason Miyares said something similar, is voters should pick their politicians, not politicians pick their voters. And that's what's happening here on a wide and egregious scale. Gerrymandering and line drawings and all of that have been part of the political process forever. This is something different. This is unprecedented. This has never happened in 100+ years of Virginia political history, to do mid-decade redistricting, let alone change the state constitution to do it.
Well, and this is also, as you hinted, it would affect federal level too. Can you explain that a little bit?
So that is the reason they're doing it. The opening move, the reason they're doing that is Washington and Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrat leaders in Washington asking them to do this because they want to redraw to get federal lines to offset some of the mid-decade redistricting gains by Republicans in other states like Texas. So they're trying to gerrymander it. So right now it's pretty even. It's like 5-4, I think, in terms of delegation of Republicans, Democrats. They're trying to get it so it'd be like 7-2 or 6-3 or 9-2. Sorry, I got the numbers wrong, but a 9-2 or an 8-3 line. So they're trying to get it so basically the only seats that Republicans are left with are in Southwest Virginia and Shenandoah.
So this is not only about control here in our state, but also control of Congress.
Yes, that is the reason they're doing it. It's just while the car's in the shop, they have a huge opportunity for absolute power, and they are definitely not going to leave that on the board.
Yeah, they're being really brazen about trying to just grab that regardless of what voters think.
Exactly.
All right. Well, this really could be pretty devastating for people listening.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you what people can do about it. But actually, another question just came in my mind. I want to ask you first. So I want to play devil's advocate a little bit. So if you listen to Democrats, they are trying to justify this by saying, look, they bring up Trump again. They're saying, look, Trump he started this. He started redistricting. It's just Texas has done it, and now it's just quid pro quo. So what is your response to that?
We're not Texas. This is a different state. We're the Commonwealth of Virginia. We have our own way of doing things. We have a state constitution that tells us how we're supposed to do things that we changed and voters overwhelmingly agreed with on the ballot box. This is an issue that's already been decided, and they're trying to revisit it in the most egregious, sneaky way possible to basically slide one past the keeper here a little bit, or the keeper being the Virginia voters in this case, to take absolute power. And there's no comparison to be made there in my mind.
And am I wrong in thinking Texas wasn't doing this in the middle of an election happening as they're voting?
That's the other thing. They weren't doing it a handful of days before voters were about to cast their ballots on gubernatorial election and House of Delegates elections. I mean, to do this, they're calling Winsome Sears and every Republican and Democrat in all of these key seats off the campaign trail to go deal with this. That's another thing, is they're also impacting our elections right now just by the act of calling them off the trail.
Well, do you think voters will be upset about this? Will enough voters be upset about this for it to actually impact?
I think voters will be upset about it. It's a question of, is it too little too late? How many voters hear about it? How many voters understand what's going on in time? Because there's just not enough time. So I'm not sure. That's up to God and the voters. But, that's part of the reason why I'm glad we're doing this, is we need to make as many people aware as possible. I mean, that's what my team is doing out on the doors right now. Is every door we're knocking up, we're bringing it up. Hey, by the way, the left is trying an absolute power grab. You might want to stop them and get out to vote.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it is very sobering. I mean, it's sad. It's making me, it could be devastating. So, when people hear that and maybe feel a little overwhelmed, what can they do about it? And let me just also give the caveat. We hope this is put to it. We hope by some miracle that legislators at the state capitol in a special session understand that this just isn't right and put a stop to it. But if that hasn't happened by the time you hear this, what can people do?
So for special session, you can call your legislators, especially call your Democrat legislators, call the leftists, melt the phone lines, let them know how you feel about this, let them know what you think it is, let them know how you think they should vote. Pressure them and mount public pressure to dissuade them from voting the wrong way and to do the right thing. I mean, there was a state senator that anonymously said to the press that he was uncomfortable with this. We think that senator is Van Valkenburg. I mean, call him. Tell him how you think about this. Tell him to do the right thing and to resist the party whip, pressuring him, threatening him into doing something he already disagrees with.
And even if it's not him, he still needs the phone calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So call them all. Let them know how you feel, especially him. And that is something you can do that might change things.
And you have got your mission from Bruce, melt the phone lines. So there's going to be a very short time to do this, like immediately when you hear this. Yeah. You need to be doing this if this is still going on. So pay attention to the news and our email alert, or well, not ours, but the action team's email alerts that they'll probably be sending out. And, I guess it's also important for you to go out and vote right now, right?
Yes,
like right now.
That is the other thing you can do is vote. Tell all your friends to vote. Tell as many of them as you can to get out and vote. That's very important. You'd be surprised at how many of your friends kind of skip these kinds of elections. I mean, another thing you can do is support action in our work. We're going to try to make a last minute blitz to let voters know about this. We don't have much time to do it. But, if we get a little bit of extra resources to put into an anti-gerrymandering effort, that's what we're going to do. And I think there's a lot of voters that when they find out about this, they're going to be angry. And some of them might change their mind and vote the other way when they were previously being like, I'm going to vote Democrat. But when they hear about this, maybe they at least split tickets and go vote for a conservative legislator who's going to vote against this brazen power grab, because this is an important reason why checks and balances in our system are important. Yeah. And what they're trying to do is just basically bulldoze the walls and just take total control.
And with this post from the Attorney General, Jason Mears, that we'll put on the screen here, he made the point that he actually broke with party because he wanted a fairer option.
Yeah.
So
he was one of the guys pushing for this in the beginning. He's one of the guys who wanted this amendment in our state constitution and wanted a new process to redistricting commission. So, he broke party rank to vote that way.
Well, as someone that works with Speak Up people on the ground, I know how passionately they feel, just how much the effort to enshrine unlimited abortion weighs on them through a constitutional amendment. And I just think they will find this so heartbreaking if leftists were able to use this process to escalate that. And so let me talk about the different ways this could play out. And, this could come down to a legal battle. And if the Attorney General is reelected, I mean, what could he do? Could his office weigh into this?
Yes. So there is a legal argument going around right now that essentially claims that you need an intervening election, obviously, to have, to pass a constitutional amendment. You got to pass it once, intervening election, pass it a second time. They are going to argue that this upcoming election doesn't count, that essentially they have to wait for an intervening election to happen again to pass it a second time, this repeal of the commission, because ballots have already been cast. The election has already started. It's too late. You missed your window. That's the legal
and the
argument.
reason it wouldn't count is because they've chosen to do this in the middle of ongoing voting process.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how the theory goes. So essentially, they're going to claim that the law doesn't specify election date. It specifies the election. And they're going to claim that the election started September 19th. It is too late.
With early voting that they
with the start of early voting, it's too late. Ballots are already being cast. The election's ongoing.
Makes sense to me.
So that is the legal argument that he can try. It's not only him that can try. Plenty of people are going to try it. There's going to be someone that sues this, I'm sure, with
if it
some
gets that
support
far,
behind it.
Well, everyone be praying for every step along the way. Every step is important. So, Bruce, in a nutshell, wrap up for us again what's at stake in this special session and possible outcomes.
Every issue you guys care about. I mean, honestly, if they get this through, they can redo all the lines, guarantee them power with no checks, no hope of conservatives taking back any of these seats that they're going to gerrymander, at least until the census in 2030. And in the meantime, they'll be able to do whatever they want on the issue of abortion, on trans issues, on schools, on homeschooling. There's no check. They have nothing to worry about. And that's what's at stake.
And that's why people are calling it political Armageddon. And let me just be clear that regardless of what happens, we are always going to have that biblical Wilberforce mindset of battling for the truth and leaving the results to God no matter what. But we want people to be equipped to weigh in where they can about the issues they care about. So that's why we're bringing this to your attention. Well, there's actually been a press conference on all of this. Let's just listen to some clips from that.
The people of Virginia spoke and said, this is not what we want, what they, the Democrats, are about to do. The voice of the people of Virginia matter, not elsewhere. We need to stick to Virginia. Mr. Chairman, you want to say something?
Yeah. What's the difference between us and Texas is we have a constitution that we just adopted that every Democrat who is here still voted in favor of. And they're trying to change our constitution, and they're violating the Constitution by trying to do it this way. That's where we're different.
All right, Bruce, just to summarize, what are the most important takeaways that you're wanting to get out to people right now in this crucial moment?
So I know Winsome and some of the Republican leaders emphasized and are going to continue to emphasize the fact that they're off the campaign trail and can't campaign right now. And this is all a stunt because this, and this. Mm-hmm. That's all true. The most important thing to emphasize here is this goes beyond that. They're not doing this just to take them off the campaign trail. That is a happy byproduct of why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. They're doing it to seize total control in a brazen king stroke of political power. That's why they're doing it. This is just a happy accident that they also get to take us off the campaign trail.
Mic drop moment for Bruce there. Thank you. All right. Well, Bruce, I really want to talk about some other issues that have also been stirring up this whole campaign season. And the transgender issues have played a surprising role. I didn't anticipate how big of a role they would actually play. And to that point, I want to just play this clip from this notable moment in the debate between Winsome Sears and Abigail Spanberger. Let's just let our audience hear that for a second.
That's why I'm asking my opponent, if your little girl comes home and said she was forced to undress in a locker room with a biological boy, what would you say? She's crying. What would you say? Are you not going to answer?
Well, that really was just something to behold. Abigail Spanberger just staring stonily ahead and basically not moving while Winsome Sears is asking her questions.
That happened a few times during the debate, and those were kind of the most memorable moments. I think, honestly, the debate, there's just a few clips that people are going to remember because most people didn't watch. Yeah. They're just going to see it on social media, and that's going to be one of the images they see of that debate.
I don't know if that's great advice from Abigail Spanberger's team, like stare straight ahead and don't move, don't acknowledge. I don't know if that was the best advice.
Well, I don't know if you saw her interview. She went on Katie Couric recently, and she gave a 10, 15-minute answer on the trans issue and successfully said nothing.
And the problem is she can't really say anything, right?
No, so what she was doing there is two strategies. She can't say what she actually thinks because it's wildly unpopular. So what she's going to do is two strategies. One, stare straight ahead and say nothing like she did during the debate, or what she did during the Katie Couric interview, which is say everything
word
all
salad.
At once, word salad, so no one has the soundbite that they can just use in an ad.
Well, why are you glad? What's the redemptive silver lining here that transgender issues, parental rights is becoming more of an issue, or maybe is getting some traction in this?
I'm glad they're bringing it up because it's an 80-20 issue that conservatives are winning on and liberals are losing on. And that, I mean, if I were a progressive, I wouldn't want to talk about it either. You're on the wrong side
Yeah.
of a 80-20 issue.
I'm glad they're bringing it up because I just think school boards need to wake up that this is what parents want. But aside from that, there's also the whole Jay Jones stuff that just keeps shaking things up as well. Bring us up to speed on that because we talked about it earlier in the podcast about the text. Victoria and I talked about the Jay Jones text, but that is still becoming an issue.
That's all anyone can talk about right now. And, we hear it at the doors. We're seeing it all over. It's what all the campaigns have pivoted to talking about. And it's the one thing Spanberger desperately doesn't want to talk about, which is the problems of her running mate that she refuses to denounce.
Do you think this is affecting all of the candidates?
I think it could affect all the candidates. It's being talked about by everyone. The thing is, seldom do you see lower ticket kind of move upstream and affect the top of ticket. You usually see it flow down and affect the bottom of the ticket. So we'll see, but it plays very well into the narrative that's being set since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, that the left are pushing forward a narrative of political violence, that they are encouraging political violence, that leftist politicians are fanning the flames. This plays into that meta-narrative.
Well, and to be fair, it's hard to cast it as just a narrative when you see these No Kings protests and people pointing to their neck.
Yep.
I mean, it's just horrible.
No,
so
thousands of
there's definitely an
incidents.
issue that the party has there.
Yeah.
Let's just play another debate moment, the one between the current Attorney General, Jason Miyares, and the candidate, Jay Jones, that we've been talking about. There were some excerpts from that debate where this became an issue. Actually, it was a repeated issue. So there were also memorable moments there. Let's play a few moments from that.
I am ashamed. I am embarrassed. And I'm sorry. I am sorry to Speaker Gilbert. I'm sorry to his family. I'm sorry to my family. And I'm sorry to every single Virginian. I cannot take back what I said. But you have my word that I will always be accountable for my mistakes.
The reality, Jay, is that your text messages that advocated for violence against innocent children, Jay, if you were to apply to be a line prosecutor in not just my office, any attorney general office in the country, you would not pass a background check. And right now, you may say that you are sorry, but look back at what happened. You had 3 years to say you're sorry, Jay, and you didn't. 3 years to actually recognize what you did was horrific. You chose to stay silent. Carrie Cornier called you out then. You doubled down. It was after she called you out for these text messages that is when you said you advocated for violence against children. And when this became public, we now know your first statement wasn't saying I'm sorry. The words I'm sorry wasn't even in your statement. It was to say we all send text messages we regret. You attacked the president and you attacked me. It wasn't until 12 hours after you were first notified that you then decided to say I'm sorry. Because at the end of the day, Jay, you're a politician, not a prosecutor, and you certainly can't be the top prosecutor in the state of Virginia.
Well, Bruce, do you think this stuff is moving the polls lately?
For Jason, yes. Jason, the polls have flipped on their head. He's leading, I think there's been like 8 or 9 polls since the scandal came out, maybe more. He's leading in all but one, and that one was a Democrat internal poll. And Jay Jones was only up 1 point in that. So Jason is definitely in the driver's seat.
All right. Remains to be seen how it's going to impact some of the others, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see.
Continues to be a big battle.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for the work your team's doing, Bruce. I know people are going to hear this and want to know how they can get involved with Family Foundation Action, which is a separate organization. Yeah. Just tell us a little bit. If people want to get involved specifically in the election side, that's what your team does. Tell them how they can get involved with what you're doing.
So 3 ways that I'm going to pitch you guys on how you can get involved. 1, come knock a door with us. Come talk to voters. Come knock these important voters that we need to come out and vote. We're targeting a lot of Christians and conservative-leaning voters that agree with us on the issues, but are disengaged and they seldom come out to vote. We need those guys to come out and vote. So come knock some doors with us. You can email Jesse at familyfoundation.org. Sorry, Jesse, I'm putting your email out there. You can email her if you want to come knock some doors. Another way you can help is you can donate. I mentioned before what I'd like to do if we got another surge of cash that we can spend on these elections to mobilize voters. And we need to get the message out there about what the Democrats are doing. There is not a lot of time left. And there are a lot of voters out there that are just going to have no idea what's going on. Most people aren't as engaged with the news cycle as probably you guys are. And the third thing that I would say is tell your friends. Go text 5 friends. And we have a community organizing tool actually that you could also email Jesse about to sign up for, about plugging in and kind of a systemized way of reaching out to friends or acquaintances that you might know in a target district and encouraging them with a message to go out and vote and why the elections are important. So you can also reach out to us about that, or you can just get in your phone and start texting a few friends and tell them to go out and vote.
Yeah. All right, throw that URL out for our audience a couple of times, especially if they're audio only. It helps.
Yes, the Family Foundation Action or familyfoundationaction.org. You can visit there. There's also more information about what we do, what we're up to, and then our donate link is there as well.
Yeah, and I also would mention your X account because it's always fascinating what you guys got going on over there. So how do they follow you on X?
So follow the Family Foundation Action on Twitter. You can look us up and give us a follow. I can't remember our exact URL or like our @ right now, but it's pretty easy to find. We're there, and we're bringing up election updates and updates on our work. You'll see a lot of pictures of happy door knockers out at the doors,
as well as not so happy updates.
Yeah,
like the redistricting. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Bruce. This was very timely, and you gave us excellent information. So I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Remember, we are stronger when we speak together. If you want other people to hear this information, make sure you share our YouTube podcast video. You can get there by just going to the Family Foundation channel and subscribing to the channel and sharing specifically on that channel the Speak Up Virginia playlist. And if you're listening on audio only like Spotify or Apple, give us that 5-star review if you like what you're hearing and you want more people to hear about it. So thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time.